Meet Pete. Pete doesn't know it yet, but in 3 hours and 41 minutes at 7:43 a.m., he will be rushing his pregnant wife Abby to the hospital. He won't be thinking about whether his car is charged and able to safely cover the distance from here to there, because the engineers who designed and built Pete's car already thought all about it. SAE International assembled a team of engineers from all over the world to think systematically about the charging of Pete's car. These engineers developed a series of standards that made mass production of Pete's car safe, affordable, and environmentally sustainable. But Pete won't have to think about any of that. He's probably never even heard of us. And we're fine with that. Because in helping the engineers keep Pete's car fully charged and safe, we've done our job. Sleep well, Pete.
Hey everybody, Mark Zachos here. Welcome to another edition of Supercharged. We are really fortunate to have a guest all the way from Southern California. Today, our guest is Dean Case, good friend of mine, Dean, and I connected with Dean a few years ago through SAE events, and actually that's what we're going to talk about today, different SAE connections. So welcome to the show, Dean.
Thanks, Mark. Happy to be here.
Yeah, don't tell me about the weather, so we'll save that for later. Okay, so today, though, we want to really listen to you and see how did you make all these connections. So I go to your LinkedIn page. It says connecting the dots with people, and I know we've talked about SAE is a big part of that, and it's been a big part of my life and my career and my business as well. I mean, how did it all get started for you? You're a California guy. You came out to Detroit. And then you wound up back there because the nice weather, I'm sure. So, how did it all get going for you there?
Well, I'm going to pull some slides together here to show you. This is kind of a summary deck, just some images I use a lot when I give my industrial lecture talk to students. I give a careers talk, and I go back to the fact that I was a car geek from an early age. My dad was an LA City firefighter, but he liked motorcycles and boats and cars. So I was always around that, and I grew up in that type of environment. So I kind of knew I wanted to get into the auto industry. And all this, the research you would do for schools before the internet age was far different. And so when I showed up at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo as a freshman, I had no idea really what SAE was, other than, it was on the top of the oil cans. I knew about SAE graded bolts, but I didn't really know what it was. And it turned out Cal Poly San Luis Obispo was competing in the Baja 1000, Mint 400, and other professional off-road races with a Toyota pickup truck. And so I was on that team for a couple of years. And ultimately, Cal Poly, we shut that program down because it was just too expensive. We focused on SAE Baja then. Mm-hmm. And we had this bright idea in 1986 when I was a senior that we're going to save money. We're going to host the event so we don't have to spend money on travel to go to Texas. It turned out to be a really dumb move because it turns out it's more work to host the event than build the car. And people were showing up there expecting that we had rigged the competition because we had the course for our car. And we proved that beyond a shadow of doubt wasn't true. We finished dead last in our own competition because we were still welding on the car the first morning of the event.
Well, one of the things that I know you're going to speak of is volunteerism. The SAE is famous for that. Everyone is volunteering, from the student to the mentors. through those competitions and other places in SAE, right? The presentations that you do today, you go, continue to go to these events, travel and go out to these universities and speak. It's something connection from your heart, right?
Right. And well, what we figured out quickly was it was beneficial to the students. We invited all these great outside judges to come up and participate in San Luis Obispo. So it was like companies who weren't necessarily recruiting our school, we got them to attend our school so we could showcase what we were capable of. And so it worked out beneficial. The funniest thing was the dean of engineering afterwards apologized to our team because he didn't realize how much support the other schools were receiving. And so it was a little bit, bittersweet that for the first time our team got money was the year after I graduated.
Yeah. Right. So
but
ultimately has its benefits, I guess. Sometimes.
Yeah. But ultimately that involvement with SAE as a student led me to be at the right place at the right time to get an opportunity at Mazda R&D. So I joined there as a studio engineer right out of school, worked on the original Miata program.
Wow.
And then one of the coolest things ever, I did a lot of things with SAE SoCal section, and we can cover that in a couple other slides, but I got to be one of the 3 young engineers. I was once a young engineer, and I got to represent SAE at FACETA in London in 1992, which was just an amazing experience to go over there. We visited the Lotus F1 team and Jaguar and Perkins Diesel, just all kinds of amazing companies over there. So that was a unique.
FACETA is a worldwide organization of engineering organizations, by the way. Right?
Right. All of our counterparts, SAE Japan and IMECI and our counterparts in Germany. So it was the picture in the lower right is all of us at FACETA who were representing these various organizations at the RAC with 1964 World F1 champion John Surtees. So it was a really cool opportunity.
So you've always been a motorsports guy? I mean, did you? Is your mechanical engineering background? What was your degree?
Mechanical, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then ultimately, you got to figure if you're a car geek, you got to come to Detroit, and you got to get your ticket punched and come there. And this is another one. It's a great SAE story of how I got to Detroit. And the photo in the upper left, that's my dad standing with Dr. Roberta Nichols. And Dr. Roberta Nichols was the head of alt fuels for Ford Motor Company in the 80s. And I saw her speak at an SAE conference. And she talked about how she got her start in alt fuels by mixing nitromethane for a drag boat. And, my dad has no automotive background in a professional sense. He was a firefighter, but he also used to race drag boats. And so I asked him a few weeks after this SAE conference if he'd ever heard of her. Because, the joke with racers is the older I get, the faster I was, and you kind of embellish what you did. And I asked if he had ever heard of this person. He goes, "Oh, yeah, Witch on a Broom." It's like, what? Because Witch on a Broom is the name of her boat. Don't you remember it? It's like, no. And we finally figured out the last time I had seen Dr. Nichols, I was probably 2 years old. So I think I'm forgiven for not remembering her. So the next SAE conference I went to, I tracked her down and introduced myself, not as Dean Case, but I'm Donald Case's son. And I looked just like my dad did at age 30. And I believe I got the job at Ford based on my skills. I know I got the interview based on Roberta's recommendation. It was this connection, this personal connection, that if I hadn't gone to the SAE meeting and heard her talk, I never would have gotten that opportunity. And so I ended up working on, it was funny, all the great publicity that Ford's getting for their amazing F-150 electric. Not the first electric pickup truck Ford did. I worked on the Ranger electric in the 90s, back when we were all under the gun for the California mandate. And so that photo is, I was explaining the vehicle layout of the Ranger EV to then Ford President Jack Nasser. And next to him is Roy Radakovich, who was one of my managers at Ford, who was also the Detroit section chair at the time. So it was nice. During my time at Ford, I got great support for SAE involvement. And I kind of I like to blend things. And I was a volunteer at the Motorsports Hall of Fame when it was located in Novi. And we ended up building a display. We talked to a couple of companies who were at SAE Congress and who were getting rid of their Congress display to donate the display properties to the museum and we turned it into an SAE student display there.
Ah,
So
that's a great idea. Yeah.
yeah, and then we had a couple of SAE Detroit section events at the Hall of Fame. So, but ultimately, if you're a California guy, I love Michigan from an industry standpoint, but you know, your surfing's really bad, and you have that funny stuff in the winter called snow that I'm just not accustomed to. So we moved back to California, and ended up going to work for Nissan, and stayed involved with SAE, back with the SoCal section, and doing some things with the Nissan Ultra EV, which is the first lithium-ion powered electric vehicle, and had some fun with that. And another great SAE connection, we were involved in the first ever Michelin Bibendum Challenge, which was a competition showcase for environmental vehicles. This was around 2001, I think it was. And we didn't really have the staffing at that time to really do what we wanted. So I approached Jim Ataro, who was the faculty advisor at Cal State Los Angeles, and said, hey, would you like to get your students involved? So we made a Nissan donation to Cal State LA and got all of his formula, and that's their super mileage vehicle. We got their students involved with our program there at the Michelin Bibendum Challenge. And it's launched a couple of careers. A couple of the people in that photo there in the upper left, next to Bib from Michelin, are now in the Detroit area. They're working for General Motors. A couple of them got hired by Nissan. So we helped launch some careers from that type of partnership.
So that's it, that the connections there. I know you're saying that all along here, but it's just everything comes together, and it's part of the SAE opportunity. So the chance to learn, talk to people, meet people that will help you in your career, and it's a chance to contribute too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Then Nissan decided to move their U.S. headquarters to Nashville, Tennessee, and I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. Staying in California, wish them well, and I called up Bob Seckler, who was longtime educational manager for SAE headquarters, and said, hey, I know you're going to run Formula SAE West next year. Have you figured out who's going to run it for you? And he goes, no, do you have any ideas? I said, yeah, me. So I ended up getting my first contract as a freelancer was running Formula SAE West, which the main task is anyone who's been involved in Formula Baja as an organizer standpoint, you need a lot of really smart people to help you on the judging and various aspects of the competition. So it gave me an excuse to cold call all these different companies and get them involved. And I got to give a really big shout out to Garrett Turbos and Toyota in particular. They were the two companies that really stepped up and helped make the first Formula SAE West a success. I also ended up meeting some guys at Millen Works, which was Rod Millen's company. And the photo down at the bottom is me saying with Praveen Penmetsa. At the time, he was program manager with Millen Works. And I'd see him once a year at the Formula SAE event. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue in 2012, he called me and said, hey, I've started my own company. Do you have any spare time to do a little bit of work for me on the side? It's like, sure. So here again, once again, a connection I made at an SAE event led to a career opportunity years later. And it's hard to ever predict those things. They just happen. And that's why you tell students, get involved and stay involved. That, you know, your SAE involvement does not end when you graduate. You know, think in motorsports terms, you know, what you did as a student in Formula or Baja or Aero Design is kind of getting you prepared for the real SAE, which is on the professional level.
Hey, Dean, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. And I'm curious, though, because, you know, all these connections, your person to person, individual that you meet, this was all pre-COVID, though. So, gosh, how does that work now? My daughter's a junior at University of Michigan. She's engineering, computer engineering. People that age, they don't do this stuff. How do we get connected there? Is the excitement of these events enough to draw them in? What do you think?
Well, let me give you an example on this next slide. Let me pull up here. I got a great one. Oops. The joys here of technology. Come on, move my slide. There we are. Because this one has happened without physical meeting. And this goes, I can trace this one back to 1983. When I did a co-op, I met an engineer, senior engineer by the name of Eric Barr, who became kind of my first mentor. And he helped us recruit Dan Gurney. Yes, the Dan Gurney is an SAE section speaker in the 80s. And I knew in the 90s, Dan had a bunch of Formula SAE grads working for him. So I went back there and staged a photo of Dan Gurney and some of these engineers. And I stayed in touch with them a little bit, but you lose touch with people as they move around. Well, thanks to LinkedIn, I kind of reconnected with Brandon Thomas, who his career is always motorsports, but I hadn't seen Brandon in decades, but I was in touch with him via LinkedIn. Unrelated, as part of the SAE lecture series, and this is pre-COVID, I visited University of Minnesota back in 2018. In 2020, Abby Hempy, and this is now during COVID, Abby Hempy reached out to me and said, hey, you spoke at my school 2 years ago. I'm now at Michigan Tech getting my master's degree. And I'm trying to figure out how to get a motorsports job. And I'm at Michigan Tech, very remote. And I graduate in December in COVID. What do I do? And so I kind of found out that she was this exceptional engineer who had like a minor in art. One of these engineers who's not your stereotypical engineer. She was into music and art and dance, just very wide range of interest and everything.
Right.
And so I suggested she build a car for the Grassroots Motorsports $2,000 challenge and crowdfund it. I helped another student do that in the past, and she did. The secret here is I told her to crowdfund it. I posted a link on my LinkedIn page. Brandon Thomas, who I'd not talked to in 15 or 20 years, sees that, doesn't even call me and ask me about Abby, just reached out to Abby on LinkedIn, says, hey, if you're driving from Michigan to Florida for your competition, come through Charlotte. I'll give you a tour of NASCAR R&D. She impressed him enough. Now she works for NASCAR R&D. And that was all done virtually.
Right.
So
yeah, there you are.
You know, and so it can still happen. A lot of it, though, it takes the initiative. And I was so happy that Abby reached out to me. You know, and I will never take credit for someone getting a job. I will absolutely take credit for them getting an interview. And this one was an accidental. Wasn't even, I didn't say, hey, Brandon, you should meet Abby. Brandon was just watching what I posted on LinkedIn and saw it. And he was good at spotting talent. So these things can still happen like that, even in a restricted world of, you know.
Yeah, the opportunity to connect is out there, be it LinkedIn. You know, SAE has their own member connection app, and you never know where it's going to lead. So where are you heading next there? Look at that.
I'm heading here again, long-term connections. The series that many people know is either Speed World Challenge or Pirelli World Challenge is now SRO Motorsports America. And there's 3 different GT classes and 1 for touring cars. And so I'm going to be on the road starting next Tuesday, head to St. Petersburg, Florida. And but the real season open, the big kickoff is in Sonoma in April. And what I'm hoping to do is connect the dots with a bunch of SAE sections. And unfortunately, we don't have a race in Detroit. But we're going to be in a number of other great markets, including a brand new racetrack in the Lake of the Ozarks. So I'm really hoping I can connect with engineers at the Kansas City section, the St. Louis section of SAE, and a lot of these great schools. Because what we'd like to do is offer some opportunities to showcase students, that we can get students to come out, bring their car, put a little easy up out there, and we can get a bunch of the race engineers and stuff to come by and help critique their car and meet them. Ultimately, you know, the whole real benefit of Formula and Baja is you get all these engineering volunteers to come out and meet the students. And when you can go to these events, it's this rolling resume where you can see what they can do. And, you know, that's the beauty of it. It shines a spotlight on talent in front of people who can hire them. I got contacted by a journalist a while back who wants to do a story and goes, why don't I read more about Formula SAE and Baja? I go, well, we're not doing it for the public. We're doing it. It's an industry event to benefit the industry. And, you know, sure, it could be a spectator event, but that's not our mission. Our mission is to help, you know, find talent and, you know, bring it into the industry. And that's the real magic of it. And so we're not worried if we get a lot of outside publicity, as long as the industry insiders know what it means. You know, I think back to when I was a student and I get a job interview, I'd have to spend half the interview explaining what SAE Baja was. Now, when the students get the interview, the person wants to know, what exactly did you do on the project? What was your role? Because they already know what the event is.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really remarkable.
Well, I think the main thing is, as you said, is the connections, the opportunities, but don't forget about the challenge too. As a young engineer, there's always, you know, these challenges. You learn from the challenges too. If you keep doing the same thing the same way, and you're going to get the same results, right? So the challenges are also integrated there.
Yeah.
So Dean, we're almost out of time here, and I guess it's a challenge to talk about all of these opportunities that you're bringing forward here and connecting it together with us. But gosh, I really appreciate that so much.
Well, hopefully I've done one industry lecture at a Michigan school, Hope College, a few years back, but I mean, hopefully maybe one of the Michigan schools will invite me to come speak one of these days.
I'm going to invite you. You know, I'm teaching down at University of Detroit Mercy now.
Oh, great.
New home campus, and it's on tape now. I got invitation and a commitment there, and we'll look forward to having you come out and connect with us. So I want to thank you so much. Well, before we wrap up, I want to congratulate you again on, you know, that Contributor of the Year award that SAE that you earned so deservedly from SAE, and it was great talking to you again at those events, that great events, celebration events that SAE puts on.
Those were, I mean, I think it was phenomenal because all of us, you know, SAE does so many different things, and the standards committees and various professional development, that most of us only see a little sliver of what the bigger picture is. So to go to the event like that, to meet you and so many others, that's different aspects of SAE that I've never been exposed to. So that was very educational for me. I really made some great connections there that hopefully, you know, you never, here again, you just don't know when they're going to pay off.
You never know. Well, you never know when the sun's shining in Detroit. I see it through my blinds here. I see it through you all. We have to close the blinds here because we don't see the sun too often, and it's kind of unusual for us. But the 2 inches of snow that we got last night, the 8 degrees when I got up this morning was -7 wind chill. That's normal. We get used to that, right?
You don't want to hear that I'm wearing short pants today. I'm going to the beach.
Well, I'm looking forward to traveling out and seeing you all in the LA area soon. So thanks for joining us, Dean.
Okay.
It was a wonderful chat.
Thanks, Mark.
I know on the screen you'll be seeing the SAE contact details for our Detroit section. If you have any other questions, reach out to the section at that information there. You can always contact me directly. Happy to answer questions and help connect you all. So with that, have a supercharged day. Thank you, everybody.